And then when I go on, partially go on top of the roof of my house, whether I was in Halsey Street or Asher Street, I looked up, and like I say, it was a very blue sky I took notice of, and I seen the sun on one side, I seen the moon on the lower side. And this is a concept of what I seen. This is my illustration of what I saw in this particular dream. The sun is there, and the moon is here. Like I said, I wasn't sure if the moon was a half a moon or whatever, but this more or less is what I seen. And then simultaneously I seen something coming in, eclipsing the moon and eclipsing the sun at the same time. Now we know when there's a lunar eclipse, you know, it's usually when there's like a lunar eclipse, is usually when the earth is casting a shadow on the moon and nothing else. Or when there's a solar eclipse, it's usually when the moon comes in front of the sun. And from our vantage point on the earth, we can see the moon blacking out the sun. But in this dream, I seen two objects. One was for the sun, trying to eclipse the sun, and another one was trying to eclipse the moon. And you see there was different levels. So the sun was up here, the moon was down there, and these things more or less were in alignment with the sun and the moon. And after these things gone past the moon and the sun, the next thing, like I said, I seen on the upper left side of the sun exploded black soot, and then I heard a very muffling sound, and the sky above me, literally, I seen it in my dream, a thin layer of vibration. It more or less, like the atmosphere more or less just rippled. And then the earth shook for about a second or so. And this is my illustration, my drawing of what I've seen happening on the upper left side of the sun when the object passed it. And after that, I see meteors shooting across a gray sky. And I see meteors also falling down from the sky. And lastly, in this dream, I see a very big meteor falling. And this meteor was on its way to crush a lady who actually stood upon a car. The next number in this piece is the number 8. This piece is called Section 10, 6 Sun Dream, or S10, 6SND. In the month of June 6, 2010, I recorded this dream inside my dream book. Today I dreamt that I seen a little black boy walking down an inner city street alone. This child might have been 9 or 10 years old. The little boy looked like me when I was 10 years old. The child walked quickly as if he was trying to leave a particular neighborhood in a hurry, or was trying to enter back into his neighborhood in a hurry. It was daytime and the little kid wore a white t-shirt. I sensed no fear around him. Then the next thing that took place inside this dream was that I heard a possible news report mentioning something about the sun. Then I looked up towards the sky and I seen a reddish or orange sphere in the sky above. Next, I found myself walking alone or around a project or near projects. Then I noticed 3 black young men who were now walking in front of me. I quickly decided to pick up my pace so I can walk ahead of them. I placed myself in front of them. Then one of the 3 black guys had grabbed me from behind and had gone into my pants back pocket, and then he took out my passport. Next, I found myself inside an apartment with these guys. The guys who stole my passport, the guy who stole my passport was now on a phone speaking to someone on the other end. of the phone. While he was speaking on the phone, he looked at me as he ripped up my passport in half. I also seen a slightly overset black woman who appeared to also have been kidnapped as I was, and then brought into this apartment that I was still standing in. The black woman looked scared. I was not really myself, but I was curious as to why I was brought here. Then I believe one of the three guys inside this apartment had drawn a small gun at me. Then somehow I found a way out of this apartment, because the next thing I seen in this dream was now I was in another apartment with an elderly, light-skinned black man who looked like my father. I believe he had a cane in his hand. I felt as if we were on the top floor of this building, which was a private house of the sort. We were in the kitchen. The kitchen walls appeared to have panels on it. Then 3 panels by the kitchen window began to bulge outward. The old man and I automatically knew that people from next door of this house were trying to break through the kitchen walls so that they could get inside this place. The elderly man became afraid and he mumbled something to me. I then told him, wait here while I run outside and call for help. I left this apartment and I headed down a long flight of stairs. As I continued down the stairs, I was stopped by a black person who looked like my dead brother, who now was trying to prevent me from leaving this building. I pushed him away from me. As I ran down the stairs, this person said something to me. He was incoherent. And just before I stepped on a last few steps, I heard the old man back upstairs scream. After I heard the old man scream, I quickly opened this building door, and now I was outside, and I beheld multitudes of inner city people running everywhere, every which way. People were in the streets and some were on the sidewalk. I spotted an unused payphone, and I gone straight towards this payphone that I spotted. Then I approached the payphone, and then I suddenly realized the phone cord was cut in half. Then I spotted another payphone across the street, and when I approached this phone, I discovered that this phone was also cut in half. I could not believe that the street's phones were destroyed by someone. I really needed to call the cops so they could help the elderly man I left behind. So now I had no other choice but to look for another payphone. As I walked the streets, I began to realize that a short Hispanic male was walking quietly beside me. I sensed he was frightened and that he needed to walk with someone. As we walked together, I came upon a block, and I noticed wooden panels that were raised upon in a standing position by several homeowners who were trying to fence out the bad people running wildly in the streets. Then after I observed fences of homes, my eyes especially gazed upon a house, one particular house, because I seen firemen in black uniforms tearing down the wooden panel. Then a black man emerged from behind some of the panel. The firemen were dismantling. The black man approached the firemen with his hands in the air. I think he was yelling at them, and I think he said to the firemen, "Why are you removing the panels?" Then my dream brought me away from this scene, and now I was in a different area. The Hispanic man was still with me. I think I was in Cypress Hills area, part of Brooklyn, New York. the Hispanic guy, and I walked towards several streets that were in front of us. We walked through several streets that was in front of us. We walked towards several streets that was in front of us. Then we crossed the streets and we came upon several Hispanic girls who were hanging around a corner store. One of the Hispanic girls said to me that I had something, in my nose. Then I cleaned my nose, and then I noticed my face was wet, maybe by perspiration, was wet from perspiration. Next, my eyes now beheld a payphone that stood several feet in front of me. Then I took my eyes off the payphone because I seen a heavy-set Hispanic man standing behind this payphone. He had his arms wrapped across the payphone. He then told the person who had been walking with me, "Come over here and be with your own kind." Then the Hispanic individual I walked with now ran towards the person standing behind the phone. I left this area, and now I found myself rushing to join a group of black people who were all rushing towards a building which might have been a project. Some of the people wore light jackets, and I seen a black guy wearing a Kango hat. Somehow I believe I was around, like I said, Cypress Hills, because I just realized that Hispanics people I seen in this dream might have been Puerto Ricans. Then I woke up. I sat upon my bed and I thought about this dream, because I wanted to know in what year was it when I seen myself in this dream. So I've gone back to sleep so I can journey back into this particular dream. Now I believe that I had gone back into this dream, and I found myself standing by a bus stop. And within the bus stop I seen adult blacks and inside this bus stop waiting, adult blacks in this bus stop waiting area. I believe I asked them what time it was, and I believe they mentioned the month of September to me, and that's all they told me. Then I woke up from this dream. The next number in this piece is the number 9. This piece is called Section 10, 7, Sun Dream, or S10, 7, S, and D. In the month of July 4th, 2010, I recorded this dream inside my dream book. Today, I had a very brief dream. I dreamt that I was looking upward into a nearly perfectly blue sky. Then after I stopped admiring the blue sky, my eyes began to notice a large white crescent sphere in the upper left-hand side of the sky. And on the lower right-hand side of the sky sat a half moon. And then I took notice of snake-like kind of small clouds floating almost underneath the bright crescent object. And somehow in this dream I kind of picked up that what I seen had a little bit to do with the sun and the moon that I seen when I was nearly on the roof, and prior to seeing the two objects, one eclipsing or nearly eclipsing the sun, and the other one nearly eclipsing the sun. And anyhow, this is what I picked up. It has some type of connection, but here's an illustration of this dream. Okay, so like I said, I seen the crescent and I seen the moon. Now, for it to be a crescent, you would think the Earth's shadow have been reflecting on the moon, but then you see the moon here. You see the moon below. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly what these things were. All I know, it could have been the two things that eclipsed, the sun and the moon. And here's the snake-like clouds that were moving slowly underneath the crescent right there.